Hey guys, welcome to the 2019 Cycle World comparison between Kawasaki's Ninja 400 ABS and Kawasaki's Z400 ABS. Today with me is my colleague and senior editor over at Cycle World, Justin Dawes.
Hey guys.
We just got done riding both these bikes. We'll just start with introductions with these machines.
Sure.
On the left here, we've got Kawasaki's 2019 Ninja 400 ABS. This thing was introduced for the 2018 model year as a complete redesign, all new. Great entry-level sport bike from Kawasaki. To the right, we have Kawasaki's Z400 ABS. This was introduced as an all-new model for this year, 2019. And it expands Kawasaki's recently reintroduced Z line of street bikes.
Yeah, it's a good entry for Kawasaki. I mean, everyone's been kind of going to these small naked bikes to complement their sport bikes that are small, and it just makes sense for Kawasaki to do the same thing, for sure.
Exactly. We all know how popular the naked sports bike class is in Europe and other parts of the country, so it's cool that...
And it's catching on here as well.
It is.
For sure.
It is.
Definitely catching on here as well. So,
So,
and they always look like a big bike. I think that's one of the cool things about both these bikes. They actually do both look like big bikes.
we'll get into that in a minute.
We will.
But first, let's talk about the engine.
Yeah.
Kawasaki overhauled its parallel twin engine last year, and they boosted the displacement to 399 cc. So 399 cc parallel twin, 8-valve, dual overhead cam. What do you think of this engine, Justin?
It's a really good engine. I mean, it's the same engine in both bikes, so it's a pretty funny comparison when you're comparing two bikes that have such similar equipment. But it's a really cool engine, and I like that they moved it up to the 400cc, even though there's some people that complain about displacement creep, right? You know, it used to be a 250, then it was a 300, and now we're up to 400 cc's. But it just makes for a better engine. It's got more torque, it's got more power, and the footprint or actual size of the engine is not much bigger. So you still have a small bike just with more power, and it actually makes it more fun for everyone to ride, all the way from beginners to experts. So I really like this engine. I think it is the best engine in the class by far these days, you know, because it's parallel twin, it's smooth, it's fun, it's got good torque, and overall it just is the best, I think the best motor for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. The Kawasaki no displacement,
no replacement
for displacement adage works really good.
It does.
And I mean, you just get a whole lot of bike for your money.
You do, you really do. I mean, just in the engine alone, but I think there's more to these bikes than that for sure.
Yeah, we both like the engine. They sound cool. It's got good power. Let's talk about the real difference between these bikes, and that is, besides the aesthetics, the ergonomics.
Yeah, ergonomics for sure. You know, you've got a full naked over here, and you've got a sport bike over here. It's still got kind of taller bars than, you know, a full-on sport bike with low clip-ons. For me, I think the Z400 is just a little bit more of a bike that fits the everyday life of maybe someone that's looking for a smaller bike compared to the Ninja 400. It's more upright, it's more, you know, familiar with the straight handlebar rather than being canted forward a little bit on a sport bike. But that's my opinion. What do you think?
Well, I really do like the handlebar of this Z400. It's a lot more natural feeling handlebar. You know, I love the clip-ons of a sport bike, but Kawasaki kind of made the clip-on setup on this machine kind of goofy. You know, they're a little bit high, they're a little bit inward. The handlebar is really not a traditional sport bike. It's like a hybrid. They kind of try to do sport bike, but they try to kind of do an upright handlebar, and you kind of get a little bit of a mix, which really
but
isn't
it's not a good mix. It's weird because, yeah, you're not leaning super far forward, but I did feel pressure in my wrist quite a bit, like after riding that for a little while compared to something like this, which is weird because the bars are kind of high, but they're canted this way so much. I think that's what gives you the weirdness in your wrists.
I agree, but overall, we both agree that the handlebar on the Z400 is the more favorable setup.
Yeah, it gives you more leverage too. Like it helps with handling, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but you had some issues with the shrouds on this bike compared to that bike.
Ergonomics is everything with this little bike, and yeah, just me having longer legs, that was the one real gripe I had with the Z400 ABS ergonomics, where literally these shrouds protrude on the side of the fairing, and they actually kind of hit the inside of my knee, and which, you know, for a couple miles it's not a big deal, but you ride these things for 8 hours and it starts to bother your knees.
Yeah.
And the Ninja doesn't have that problem because it's got a traditional sport bike fairing where there's no protruding bodywork there.
Right, yeah, but I mean, in difference in height, you're what, 6
foot?
6 foot. I'm 5'10", 5'9" some days. For me, it wasn't an issue at all. I never noticed that at any time. But you know, I guess it just comes down to fit. But
yeah, I would say if you're a taller guy, you might want to be on this Ninja. If you're a little bit smaller, the Z400
yeah,
might be a better option for
yeah,
you.
all day long, I would pick the Z400 over the Ninja in terms of ergonomics, just as a whole, because of the wrists and the upright seating position, I think.
While we're talking about the ergonomics, let's talk about the fairing versus no fairing.
That comes into play, obviously, on freeways and things like that, and at the racetrack. For me, I don't mind it. I never really complain about naked bikes having buffeting because it's a naked bike. Of course, it's going to have that, and you're going to have some more air on your body compared to a fully faired Ninja. So for me, it didn't really matter, but you had a different opinion.
Well, I like the upright position of this bike, but realistically, you know, if you're here in Southern California, a good amount of your motorcycle riding is going to be on the freeway. And when you're riding on the freeway, when you have this full front fairing and a windscreen, you know, it really does a lot to take that air and that buffeting off your chest, and it kind of delivers you to your destination just a little bit less fatigued than an open air bike. So personally, I would opt for a fairing and a windshield.
Yeah, and it actually, you said it made a difference in fuel mileage as well. Not a big one, but
it did. This thing registered 3/10, I believe, better MPGs than the Z400. And the engines are the same, like we said. This bike actually weighs 7 pounds less. So 7 pounds less, same engines, but the difference of having the bodywork, what we measured is it actually has a little bit better fuel economy too.
For sure. The styling is funky and kind of sharp edged, like most nakeds are these days. So it's fine. It's not anything amazing in terms of styling, where this thing looks like a 6. Looks like a ZX6.
Looks like a 6R.
So it's a good thing for a 400 buyer, but it's probably not a good thing for a ZX6 buyer, because you go, is that a 400 or a 600? It's a 600. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know. So there's that, but it's a really good looking bike. I mean, it's very aggressive looking. It's got great paint on it. Like it's a good looking bike.
For motorcycles that are made in Thailand, the fit and finish and attention to detail is very high on.
Yeah, it's very high. It's definitely very high. But I mean, they've been running that factory in Thailand for a long time, so they've got all the bugs worked out compared to some other manufacturers that have only done that in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. They've been building bikes in Thailand for 15, 20 years.
Fair point.
So they have a good system there. What else?
Let's move on to the chassis here. Both bikes ride on a steel frame. They have a front 41 millimeter fork and a no adjustment, and then a hydraulic shock absorber out back with spring preload adjustment. Pretty rudimentary suspension and chassis technology, but it works really well. What did you think of the handling versus the Z400 versus the Ninja?
Both were actually really good. There's very small differences in the handling, I think. The Z400, the suspension action was maybe a little more plush in the cobbly stuff and in the less smooth roads, where this had a little bit tauter ride. This has one step stiffer springs, but the damping in both of these are the same.
Correct.
And you can kind of feel it. This kind of holds up in the stroke a little bit better. This has a little bit more weight transfer. Overall, they're both, suspension-wise, they're really awesome. I like the flickability of this bike, of the Z400, better than the Ninja. And I think it really comes down to the seating position and the handlebars. It just feels like you can kind of throw it around a little bit easier, where the Ninja kind of is planted and takes a little more effort to move it, which isn't maybe a bad thing, especially if you end up taking it to a road race track.
Yeah, I really agree. I mean, this thing is 7 pounds lighter, but it's not more maneuverable because of that. It's really more maneuverable because of that handlebar.
I believe so.
And you know, the softer spring rate is going to help with the weight transfer a little bit. But overall, I think though the suspension maybe on this is a little bit better if you're going to be riding a little faster.
Yeah, if you're going to be riding a little harder. I weigh quite a bit more than the average body for this bike. Like who this is really intended for, I outweigh that person by a good 50 pounds. And I wouldn't say it was too soft or spongy or bad. It was just, it's still really good.
No, I mean, both these bikes, you can ride them really hard. Like, I'm a heavy guy too, and you can ride them hard, and They don't get out of control. They don't bounce too much. You know, there's no damping adjustment, but to be honest, you really don't need it because the OE setting on that is so well dialed.
Yeah, the settings are really good, and the chassis itself is really good. They don't get wound up. They don't feel flimsy or spindly. They really take the abuse pretty well. I mean, you can like really jam them into a corner, and they don't get wound up. You hit a big bump in a corner, they don't want to spit you off or anything. It's really, really nice.
A lot of the credit too goes to the OE fitted Dunlop Sportmax GPR 300 tires.
I mean, that's a really nice tire for an entry-level bike.
Yeah, it's a budget tire from Dunlop. It's not the most expensive tire in their lineup, but it gets it done.
That's nice. It's good. It's good for this type of bike. So it was really hard to figure out throughout the day which one is the best bike. It's a kind of a strange comparison when we're really splitting hairs here on these two bikes.
It really is. I mean, for me, it really comes down to, do you want a fairing or do you not want a fairing? But not even that, there's also the always important factor of moolah, price.
Yes, and I think that is probably the biggest deciding factor between the two.
This bike here on the left retails at $52.99. So,
and that's with ABS.
With ABS. This particular model has ABS as a factory option, which is a $200 upcharge. I'm sorry, a $300 upcharge.
$300 upcharge.
$300
yep, $300
upcharge.
bucks more. So if it would be $49.99 without ABS.
Correct. $49.99 without ABS, $52.99 with ABS, and then Kawasaki has another $200 option if you want the KRT edition colorway, which is Kawasaki's racing bodywork and that lime green paint.
Yep. Where the Z400 is $47.99.
$47.99. $4,800 with ABS standard. There's no ABS option. It just comes with ABS right from the factory. So essentially, you're saving $500 by buying this motorcycle.
That's a big chunk, especially when you're looking at a small bike or your first bike. You know, 500 bucks. That's 10%.
Yeah.
10% difference in price.
Yep.
So, because of the friendlier ergonomics and the lower price, I think that's what puts the Z400 ahead of the Ninja 400.
Nope, I couldn't agree with you more. You know, money is money, and the more money you have in your pocket, the more money you can spend on riding gear or accessories to really make this bike yours.
Yep, I think you can't go wrong with either, but I would like to go home with 500 bucks more in my pocket.
Yep, so as Justin surmised, the Kawasaki Z400 ABS is the winner of this comparison.
It was a tough one to figure out, but when you weigh out all the options, this is where we're at.
Yep.
Great.
Well, that's a wrap from today's Cycle World comparison, guys. If you like what you saw today, make sure you subscribe to our channel and go on to cycleworld.com to read the article. I'm Adam, this is Justin. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya, thanks.